Was it the heartbreak of a forbidden love? A deep mistrust rooted in childhood trauma? Or was it a shrewd political maneuver no man could ever compete with? She was one of the most powerful rulers in history. Her name, Elizabeth, is still echoes through time, a queen whose reign shaped the future of an empire. And yet, through all the power, the triumphs, and the suitors, she never married. Why? Elizabeth I reigned over England for 44 years, commanding armies, outwitting enemies, and earning the devotion of her people. But behind her crown was a mystery that still fascinates historians. Why did she choose to remain single in a world where queens were expected to marry and produce heirs? This wasn't just a personal decision. It was a choice that defied centuries of tradition and reshaped what it meant to be a woman in power. In this video, we dive into the truth behind the Virgin Queen's most private and strategic decision, the childhood scars, the political game, and the legend she built from her solitude. Because sometimes, the most powerful move is to stand alone. Elizabeth's journey to the throne was paved with pain. Born to Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, her early life was scarred by betrayal, political instability, and trauma. When Elizabeth was just 2 years old, her mother was beheaded on charges of adultery and treason. Historians widely agree those accusations were politically motivated. In an instant, Elizabeth went from heir to humiliation, stripped of her title, and labeled illegitimate. She was shuffled between households, treated as a royal afterthought. Her father remarried 4 more times. Each new queen was a lesson in the lethal risks of love. Jane Seymour died in childbirth. Catherine Howard was executed. Even her final stepmother, Catherine Parr, couldn't shield Elizabeth from court scandal. Then came Thomas Seymour. After King Henry's death, Elizabeth lived under the care of Parr and her new husband Thomas. He was dashing, ambitious, and deeply inappropriate. Reports say he visited the young princess in her bedroom at dawn, tickled her, even cut her gown in jest. It was dismissed as harmless fun until it wasn't. When Parr died and Seymour proposed marriage to Elizabeth, the scandal exploded. He was arrested and eventually executed. Elizabeth never spoke publicly about the affair, but its imprint was lasting. She learned early that intimacy could be weaponized, that men, even those closest to you, could pose the greatest threat. In a world where alliances were sealed with rings and vows, Elizabeth saw marriage not as salvation but as surrender. For her, survival meant control, and control meant keeping her heart and her crown unclaimed. Elizabeth didn't just avoid marriage, weaponized it. In the 16th century, marriage was a queen's most expected duty. It meant alliance, stability, and heirs. But Elizabeth turned this duty into one of the sharpest tools in her political arsenal. She received marriage proposals from the most powerful men in Europe: Philip II of Spain, the Archduke Charles of Austria, even the future King Henry III of France. Each suitor was studied, entertained, even encouraged. Yet each was ultimately rejected. But these were not impulsive choices. They were deliberate, calculated acts of diplomacy. By remaining single, Elizabeth kept foreign powers guessing and negotiating. Her potential marriage was dangled like bait. As long as there was a chance, alliances stayed alive. Threats remained delayed. War was postponed. Elizabeth kept England strategically flexible, a player in every major conversation, without ever giving up power. Domestically, the stakes were even higher. Marrying an English noble would empower one faction over others, risking internal division and civil unrest. A foreign match risked reviving the fury her half-sister Mary had faced when she married Spain's Philip III, an unpopular union that ignited nationalist resentment. Elizabeth refused to be anyone's pawn. Instead, she crowned herself in full authority. Her symbolic declaration, "I am already bound unto a husband, which is the kingdom of England," wasn't just poetic, it was political genius. By presenting herself as married to her realm, she ended the debate. She wasn't single, she was sovereign. Even her well-publicized closeness with Robert Dudley became part of her image. Their flirtation was the subject of endless court gossip, but it remained just that, talk. a calculated illusion that reminded everyone of her desirability, without sacrificing independence. She didn't reject marriage because she lacked options. She rejected it because it gave her leverage. Every maybe was a masterstroke. Every delay, a decision. Elizabeth didn't need a king. She was the queen and the game was hers to play. Elizabeth's singleness wasn't just a political strategy. It became a myth, a legend, a brand. She wasn't simply unmarried. She was the virgin queen, untouched, pure, and chosen by destiny. In a world that prized male rulers and dynastic marriages, Elizabeth carved out a new kind of power: sacred, mysterious, and sovereign. The myth was carefully curated. Elizabeth wrapped herself in iconography that blurred the line between monarch and deity. Portraits showed her adorned in pearl symbols of chastity. Her face became flawless, white with makeup, almost otherworldly. She was no longer just a ruler. She was Gloriana, the goddess queen. And it worked. By embracing virginity as her identity, Elizabeth made herself untouchable, literally and figuratively. No husband, no master. Her body wasn't a political object. It was a symbol of the realm, and she ruled as its living embodiment. Poets praised her. Painters immortalized her. Even Parliament, which begged her to marry, eventually accepted the cult of Elizabeth. Her virginity was transformed from vulnerability into invincibility. It also protected her from criticism. In an age obsessed with female chastity, she avoided the scandal that could have destroyed her reign. Any romantic entanglements, real or rumored, were always brushed aside beneath the armor of the Virgin Queen. But make no mistake, this was no passive image. It was active myth-making, shaped by Elizabeth herself. She understood the power of perception, and she built a throne on it. The Virgin Queen wasn't born. She was forged out of strategy, fear, ambition, and genius. Elizabeth I didn't reject marriage because she feared it. She rejected it because she saw what others couldn't. That in a world built by men, love could be a leash, and she refused to be led. Her decision wasn't weakness. It was strength. It was survival. And it was power, pure and unfiltered. By remaining single, she retained control over her throne, her image, and her destiny. She used every marriage proposal as a political chess piece. She built a persona that inspired loyalty, mystery, and awe. And in doing so, she redefined what it meant to be a queenot, a bride, not a consort, but a sovereign. Her legacy lives not in a love story, but in a nation transformed. Under her rule, England flourished militarily, culturally, and politically. And long after her death, the myth of the Virgin Queen remains one of the most fascinating in history. So why did Elizabeth I never marry? Because she didn't need to. And maybe, just maybe, she knew that the most unforgettable rulers are the ones who break every rule. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold history, and share this video with someone who loves a good mystery from the past.